Hello everybody, welcome to our final English lesson of the week. So today is our final lesson of the week and we're going to continue looking at the man on the moon. Now hopefully yesterday you remember that we started looking at questions and we thought of some questions that an interviewer could ask Bob, the man on the moon. So first of all, to recap our learning from yesterday then, can you remember what is a question? And what words did we say questions usually and often start with? So pause the video and have a think. Okay, so yesterday we talked about that a question is when you ask somebody something and you would expect them to answer. So you're asking somebody something, you might be asking them to find out some information. And we said that questions usually start with the following words. So we've got who, for example, who are you? What are you doing? Where are you going? When are we going to go home? Why are you doing that? Or how does that work? And we said questions often start with these words. So today we are going to be thinking about these characters from the story. So hopefully you can recast your memory back to when you listened to the story. Who are these characters? When do they get together? So when do we see them together in the story? And what might they be talking about? So hopefully you've remembered that we've got our main character, Bob, here, the man on the moon. And then we also had the man from Saturn and the man on Mars. And in the story, here's the page here. We've got them together. What can we see that they're eating when they're together? They're eating their lunch, aren't they? And it said, by 12:30, it's time to eat. Bob goes to his rocket ship to fetch his lunchbox. This usually contains 2 sandwiches, either cheese or peanut butter, an apple and some chocolate-covered nuts. Sometimes he meets his friends for a picnic. His 2 best friends are Billy, the man on Mars, and Sam, the man on Saturn, and they talk about the stars and tell jokes. So they get together at the middle of the day at lunchtime and they share their lunch together. They have a picnic, don't we? So we've got Bob, Sam, and then we've also got Billy. And in the story it said that they would tell jokes and they would talk about the stars and what they had done during the day. So today we're going to use our knowledge from questions that we looked at yesterday, and we're going to write a conversation between these 3 characters in the style of a play script. Have you heard of a play script before? I think some of you, or most of you, would have definitely looked at one in guided reading with me. What is a play script? Pause the video. What's a play script? So, in guided reading, we would have shared some play scripts together before. I want to see if you can remember how it's laid out, and this might look familiar. So, a play script is a piece of text or piece of writing that's written to be performed on a stage. And we can see that a play script is grouped into the different characters that you would have in the play. What do you notice about what comes at the start of each sentence? What can you see? Hopefully you've spotted that at the beginning of each sentence it tells us the character's name. So here we've got narrator 1, narrator 2, ugly sister 1, ugly sister 2. And this comes at the beginning of each sentence to tell you whose turn it is to talk. So a play script is because you're going to be performing it on a stage, you're going to be saying these lines out loud to perform to an audience. So you need to know who is talking at what time. So at the beginning of each sentence of the play script, it tells us which character's turn it is to talk. So I'm going to read this play script to you now, and it's for Cinderella. So it says scene 1. So this is scene number 1, and they might change the scenes for what the backdrop looks like throughout the play. Narrator 1. Cinderella is a pretty girl. She's got blue eyes and blonde curly hair. She's always happy. She likes singing and playing with her pet cat and the mice that live in the kitchen. narrator 2. She lives in a big house with her 2 sisters. Her sisters are very ugly. They've got big noses and big, ugly feet. The ugly sisters don't like Cinderella, and she has to do all the work in the house. They throw her their clothes on the floor. Pick up our clothes! Clean the kitchen! Wash the clothes! Cook the dinner! Okay, I'm just going to share that first part of Cinderella with you then. What did you notice about when I read it aloud? Did I say, narrator 1, Cinderella is a pretty girl? I might have said it at the beginning, but then as I went through, I just read the line, because when they're performing it on the stage, they don't need to say, ugly sister 1, followed by the line. This is just here to show us whose turn it is to talk. So we've got the scene. It's telling us it's scene number 1. It's the first part of the play. And then the beginning shows us whose turn it is to talk. So we're going to be writing a play script for the characters from The Man on the Moon today. So let's go and have a look at the different features of what we would like your play script to include. So like we said with the Cinderella example, scene number 1, the farmhouse. This is telling us where the conversation is taking place. So the scene might change throughout the play. So they might start in the farmhouse, then later on in the play, they might go outside. So the scene is telling us where this conversation is taking place. Like we said here, at the beginning of each sentence, we've got the name of the character who is talking. And this comes at the start of the line. And it's really important that when this was being performed, you wouldn't say the name of the character who's talking. They would just say their line. Then again, a new line each time a different character starts talking. So Jonathan here has finished talking. I'm going to make mine out of straw. Then we have a new line to show us it's a new speaker, it's a new character. And then we've got narrator 2, followed by what they say. And then you might notice this piece of punctuation here, which looks very different. And we haven't looked at this piece of punctuation before, this one here. So we've got narrator 2, narrator 1, followed by this piece of punctuation. And this is called a colon. And a colon is there to separate the name, so narrator 1, colon, followed by what they're saying. So we can see really clearly that the part before the colon is telling us the name of the character, and then anything that comes after the colon is what the character's saying, which is this part here. So these are the different features that we're going to be looking for in your play script writing today. So we'd like the scene. You're telling us where the conversation's taking place, which we know it's taking place on the moon. We've got the name of the different characters. So today we're going to be thinking of 3 characters. We start a new line every time a new character starts to talk. And we need to remember that colon after each character's name. So I'm going to share with you my example of a play script. So it says we can also use the margin to help us. So if your lined piece of paper has this margin here with this red line, it's really useful to put the characters' names and that side of the margin so we can see clearly who the characters are and then what they're saying. So we can see, first of all, I've put Bob and I've got that colon. So this is showing me that this is what Bob is saying. What have you been doing this morning? I have been so busy. I had to hoover the entire surface of Saturn. I have had a lazy morning and didn't wake up until very late. Let's go through then and see if we can spot those features. So I can definitely see in the margin we've got the name of our characters followed by that piece of punctuation called the colon. It's showing me who is talking. Have I started a new line each time a new character talks? Yes, I have. So Bob finished what he was saying here, and then the new character starts talking. And Bob has asked a question. What have you been doing this morning? So Bob asked a question. We had a response from Sam, and then we had a response from Billy. Let's look at this part then. And I've structured it this time to show you the question. Bob's asked a question, and then we've got two answers. One from Sam, one from Billy. Have you had any visitors? I can spot our question mark, so Bob's asked a question. Yes, a space shuttle landed with 50 people from England. No, I only have visitors on weekends. So again, Bob's asked his question. We've got Sam's response first, and we can see that because Sam's name's in the margin before he talks. And then we've also got Billy here. Let's keep going. So this is the first part that we've just looked at. Have you had any visitors is our question. Yes, a space shuttle landed with 50 people from England. No, I only have visitors on weekends. Then, who can we see is asking another question? Bob. Bob is asking another question. Did you have a tasty breakfast? Yes, I did. I had 2 boiled eggs. Yummy. No, I didn't. I'd run out of milk, so I had to have dry cereal. So we can see that the structure of my play script is going, Bob's asking a question, and then Sam answers, and then Billy, and then Bob asked another question. And that is the structure of the play script that we would like you to do today. So you're going to use this sheet here as your guide to help you write a conversation between Bob, Sam, and Billy. So you might want to use, you need to think of some different questions that you think Bob would like to ask Sam and Billy. So you might want to use some of the questions we looked at. Have you had any visitors? Did you have a tasty breakfast? You might ask, what different jobs do you do on your planet? So we're going to think of some different questions that Bob can ask. In the structure of our play scripts, we've got Bob followed by his question, and then you'll show me the 2 responses from Sam and Billy. Now, if you would like to really challenge yourself for your play script writing today, at the top we would like it to say scene 1, and you might say on the moon. But you might also want to include a narrator. So like we talked about in our examples at the start, let's go back to them, where we looked here, we could see in the one of Cinderella we had a narrator. Now this isn't one of the characters. A narrator almost tells parts of the play that's happening. So they're telling you what's happening in that scene. So we might want to have a narrator for Man on the Moon, and we might have the narrator saying, Bob was feeling stressed, so wanted to see if other astronauts had been busy. So the narrator's telling us that Bob's feeling a little bit stressed, and then Bob would go into asking his question. So your challenge is to also see if you can include the scene and a narrator as well. And then at the bottom of our scaffold sheet, you've got lots of different words to help you with your questions. Now, we wouldn't like you to write it on this piece of paper today, as there's not enough space to have a whole conversation. This is just here to help support you. And we'd like you to have Bob to ask at least 3 different questions. So your play script will probably be around a page long. Okay? So we look forward to reading your play scripts and can't wait to see what questions you've come up with for Bob to ask his friends. Bye everyone.